Hello, Millwall fans. Paul Eiffel here. It's time for Chat with Chaps.
Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome back to another episode of Chat with Chaps. This is the post-match analysis for the game that finished at Selhurst Park on Saturday in the FA Cup. Crystal Palace 3, Millwall 1. This one's going to be tough to summarise, isn't it? So get some popcorn, brace yourself. I'm going to try and do this in one take. So, I'm going to have to... I'll do my best for sure. If you are new to the channel, or even if you're a Crystal Palace fan listening to this, please like, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. Just leave a comment. Please give it a like. Everything we're doing goes to Cancer Research UK, and all of the stuff I just mentioned there, commenting, sharing, liking, subscribing, really helps the algorithm, helps us raise as much money as we can for Cancer Research UK. Okay. Let's strap in and let's get on with it. I think my overall summary of the on the pitch, of course, is that when you consider we were down to 10 men from 5 minutes, I think we made a game of it, and I'm pleased with that. I thought overall the players, I think they gave a really good account of themselves. You can quite clearly see the golfing class between the Premier League. And not just the Premier League, but this is a mid-table Premier League side. I know we don't like to admit it because of the rivalry we have with Palace, but they're a decent Premier League side. This isn't someone that this is a team with the likes of Mark Gurry, who was one of the best players, in my opinion, in England shirt in the summer. Eze, the likes of Jefferson Lerma, who's a good player at this level. I was really impressed with that Lacroix, the other centre back. Obviously we're going to talk about it, but Mateta's a good player at this level. So. It's by no means we weren't embarrassed, shamed, and who knows if we had kept 11 players what would have happened. Don't know, but overall I think on the pitch we gave a good account of ourselves, and I think the 4,000 Millwall fans that we were there, it was a good day out overall. I think we made some atmosphere. I tell you, some atmosphere, and. Overall good day. What I will say is I've been to some away games and away grounds, and Palace is right up there with the worst. At times it's like an accident waiting to happen. That concourse was tiny. Also, they make our beer service look good, and then the organisation from the police after the game was shocking. It took like over an hour just to get back to the train station. So that was really, really poor. But overall good day, and I ended up taking my mum and dad out for a birthday meal after, so that at least made the 3-1 loss a little bit better. But as always, let's get into the game, and I will touch on, of course, all of the incidents that happened and some of the media circus that's happened since it, because I think I just want to sort of give my point of view without going into too much detail, because ultimately, I'm here to give a perspective on what happened on the pitch. What I will say off the bat is I thought Alex Neil spoke very, very well after the game. There's so much emotion with these things. And I thought Alex Neil, again, just showed why he is certainly the right man for the Millwall job. So the lineup for us then. In goal, Liam Roberts. A back four of Joe Bryan, Jake Kuba, Japhet Tanganga and Wes Harding. Just to touch on those two players, I think I want to say Wes Harding, for me, straight away, was my man of the match. When you consider the lack of minutes, the magnitude of the game that he's coming into, he was up and down, constantly in that game. Obviously scored a goal, put a really good ball in for Coburn in the second half. I thought he was excellent. And look, I don't think he'll be with us next season. I would personally welcome him as a squad player, but I think ultimately, and when I've spoken to him before, he wants to play. So you can't begrudge him that. So look, whatever happens, I think, he would have done himself no harm whatsoever with his performance yesterday. And I wish him all the best with whatever happens between now and next season. I think Tanganga obviously scored an own goal and was on the wrong end of a clearance as well, which led to their second goal. I'm sure that was just him making sure that they didn't put an offer in the summer if they was to lose Mark Guehi. I'm sure that's all that was. So that was the back four, the back five, I should say. Casper De Nordt, Billy Mitchell in the centre of the park, and then right to left, Kamil Negley, Luke Cundle, Femi Aziz, and then up top, which I thought was interesting, starting Josh Coburn over Mihailo Ivanovic. So, let's get into it. First couple of minutes, really slow start. I think Palace just kept the ball at the back for a long time. It felt like a bit of an exhibition game, like you're sort of feeling each other out. And then, of course, it sparks into life on around 6 minutes where the ball is played over the top of Cooper. Cooper, wrong side of Mateta. Then, of course, Liam Roberts comes out and clears the ball. But in doing so, obviously has a collision with Mateta. Now, in the moment, from where the view was, it obviously we're miles away, right? But the referee, I didn't think even blew for a free kick. And if it wasn't for VAR, I'm not sure really what would have happened here. So, and I want to talk about VAR because obviously it was our first kind of exposure to it. And the other thing as well with VAR, being there and watching it on telly are two completely different experiences. And I'll come on to that in a minute, but I just want to talk about this challenge. So, look, I think for me, personally, I agree with Alex Neil's comments, to be honest, which is he's come out. Which, by the way, I don't think Jensen comes out for that, which I think is an interesting debate. But anyway, he comes out and it's momentum, unfortunately. Does it end up being a horrific tackle on Mateta? Yes, it does. And in this day and age, is it a red card? Yes, it is. But the reality is he come out, he got the ball, and it was the momentum and the follow through, which is momentum from both Roberts and Mateta, because obviously they're coming together. But obviously the momentum of Liam Roberts' kick. As you kick the ball, you can't then draw your leg back. If you kick the ball, your leg naturally goes in a trajectory. And unfortunately, it has caught Mateta nastily. And, it is a red card. But some of the comments I have seen, it just blows my mind. Honestly, some of the comparisons, I had to comment. I just couldn't let this one go. Piers Morgan made a comparison of if you did this on the street, you'd be in jail. I mean, I don't know what he's seeking to achieve with that comparison, but ultimately, it's a game of football where, yes, as I said, horrible tackle, but there is no intent there. And the comments I've seen from the likes of Steve Parish, from random people on Twitter, it is clear that there is a lot of things at play here, which is just emotion. How Steve Parish is a chairman of a football club and has come out at half time and BBC have allowed him the platform to say what he said, I think is quite honestly embarrassing. For me, I understand he wants to protect his player, and at the heat of the moment and the emotions, and I don't begrudge him that, but then just stay off air, mate. Do not say some of those things. And I think he will be embarrassed. I think you could tell because his post-match comments on Sky were very, very different. So if you've not listened to those, have a listen to them. It's almost defamation of character for Liam Roberts. Yes, it's a horrendous tackle, but you can't go out there and start accusing people of intent. And, I've seen comments on Twitter about racism and stuff like that, assault, and it's just been blown way out of proportion. I'll be honest, I hope Mateta's fine. I really do. And from what I've read, I think he is. But I also hope Liam Roberts is fine, because in a day and age where mental health is so important, some of the comments about Liam Roberts and his character, I hope he's okay. So I wish Mateta well. I wish Liam Roberts well. The whole thing has been blown way out of proportion. And it's just, it's quite honestly ridiculous. From a footballing perspective, this is where fine margins and split-second decisions come into play, because this doesn't even need to happen. Like I said, Jensen, I don't think comes for it. I think Cooper needs to deal better with Mateta. Some people are saying that Mateta fouled Cooper with the nudge, but for me, Cooper just needs to be stronger. So if Cooper's stronger and deals with it, then it doesn't need to happen. So there's all these if, buts, and maybes. But I think it's just It's just crazy. And we then move on to the chanting. For me personally, whether I agree with the chants or not, right, which I'm not for 1 second saying I do. However, they happen up and down the country at many grounds, week in, week out. In fact, Crystal Palace sung it about when Negley went down. So you can't have one rule for one and one rule for another. My other perspective on this before I move on, because I really want to talk about football, but I can't do this without at least giving some form of opinion, is that hand on heart, I genuinely feel that those chants do not happen if anyone in that ground genuinely thinks it's a life or death situation. I just don't think it does. And what's happened is obviously those chants have happened. One media outlet's run with it, and then the others it's just spiraled because it's a perfect storm, right? You've got a red card, you've got an FA Cup game, you've got it televised, you've got it being Millwall, you've got all those things, and of course, what are journalists there to do? They're there to sell stories and to get clicks. Obviously, it used to be to sell newspapers. And what sells newspapers? Well, guess what? It's headlines negative about Millwall. So, look, I'm not condoning any form of chanting. All I'm saying is you have to be fair. And those chants happen on a regular occurrence all over the country. And of course, this is a perfect example of where, Millwall get victimised. And it's also a perfect example of, I'm going to try and pronounce this right, but if anyone who watched the Steve Salis interview, which thank you for a lot of the positivity and the comments on that, ultra crepidarian, which is basically the scientific fancy term for people that make comments on things they know nothing about. And I've seen tons of that on the chanting and on the Mateta injury since in the last 24 hours. But I'll close this a little bit out by saying I wish Mateta well. I wish Liam Roberts well. And I'm hoping now this can just be blown over because it has got outrageous, in my opinion. Okay, back to football. From that moment on, it's going to be back to the wall stuff, right? I think that it's one of them where you're now playing a team that should quite comfortably beat you with 11 and you've got 10 men. You've got the rivalry. You've also got to think about Tuesday. We've got a game against Bristol City. And it was like, how can we sort of ride this out? Can we get to half time without, conceding? And how do we make it for us all about the opportunity for set pieces and corners and things like that? On 16 minutes, Crystal Palace have the ball in the back of the net, and the thing. This is where I want to talk about VAR because I found this really interesting. So it was handball, and it was given handball, and obviously the goal doesn't count. But if you watch the highlights, our players basically stop, and that just shows you the difference in how being used to VAR and not being used to VAR. Because I'm pretty sure Premier League players now don't stop because they know they can't afford to, whereas we do stop, right? Because it's not at our level. I don't know if I've explained that rightly, but what I'm saying is that this just shows you how you almost need to have a learning curve when you're playing in games with VAR because you can't afford to stop now. You can't afford to assume it's handball. And if you watch, you can see like Cooper put his hand up and almost it just changes the complexion of the game. The other thing as well, just being in the ground, because you don't hear what they're actually doing. At times, you don't even know they're checking for VAR. And the screen at Palace was so slow to update. It's just so weird. It's such a different experience having it at the ground versus obviously watching it on telly. And again, I think for the players getting used to, you have to basically just carry on play. I mean, it's just all a little bit ridiculous. But anyway, that one obviously wasn't given. By the way, obviously to bring Lucas Jensen on, Alex Neil had to sacrifice a player and he went with Luke Cundle, which I think was probably the right decision because for me, Luke Cundle is a very possession player and it was quite clear we were going to have hardly any. So I think it was the right decision. Just thought I'd touch on that. On 90 minutes, I felt we had a moment. The ball kind of got, I think it was a throw in. got flicked on by Cooper and Coburn. It was just a little bit of a scramble in the box. We couldn't quite get there, and you just knew it. We just needed to make a lot of these set pieces and a lot of the corners, and it was pretty one-way traffic after that. I've noted down here 24 minutes, a shot, and I think it was Swivel. I don't know if it was Nketiah. Decent save from Jensen. Jensen made quite an amount of good saves in the first half. On 25 minutes, I don't know how they don't score. Jensen makes a good save again. Then there's a block from Joe Bryan before eventually being cleared. On 27 minutes, this is when Negley goes down. And obviously the Crystal Palace fans, the same chance that the Millwall fans did, goes down with no one near him, which is always a worry. He should have gone off then. He doesn't. And what happens is Chilwell gets in behind him because Negley can't track the man. And this is an excellent save from Lucas Jensen, using his leg down to his right-hand side. Chilwell should have scored there. However, 2 minutes later, Crystal Palace do score. It's a corner that then gets, I think it's the third phase of the corner. They recycle it. Eventually, it comes out to Will Hughes. He puts a cross into the box. And unfortunately for Tanganga, he tries to clear it. But in doing so, he heads it straight into his own net. And they go 1-0 up. Obviously, from that point, it's always going to be tough. We do have a moment on 34 where Aziz blazes it over the bar. Chilwell hits the bar on 37, which was also caught for VAR before eventually Crystal Palace do take the second goal lead on 39. From where we are, I was like, that's offside, 100% that's offside. But it wasn't, because what happened is Billy Mitchell clears it off of Tanganga. I'm not quite sure what Billy's doing here, to be fair. Clears it off of Tanganga. Munoz, fair play to him. He follows up. Obviously, if it had come off of his player, he would have been miles offside, but he didn't, and pokes it into the net, and they go 2-0 up on 39 minutes. It then gets to 45, obviously, and then 30 minutes come up. And I'm going to be really honest here, because if I'm not honest, I always am anyway, but I know one or two of you will pipe up in the comments and say, I know exactly where you were when the goal went in and you wasn't in the stand. And you would be correct. I thought it was a perfect opportunity for me to go down and try and get a pint at half-time and avoid the queues. Worst thing I did, because I still hadn't been served by the time that the half-time whistle would blown, and I missed Wes Harding's goal. And it's a good goal. Obviously, really good work from Femi Aziz to beat two players on the left-hand side. Ball comes across the face of goal, and Harding does, what you should do, which is just keep your head down, keep it low, hard, takes a deflection, but you don't try, you don't score. And I can't imagine how the eruption was and the emotion was watching that, because I wasn't bloody there. So yes, not happy to have missed that, but can't even say the pint was worth it, because it was a pint of Carlsberg that was a bottle poured into a plastic cup that I paid £6.50 for the privilege. And by the time I actually got it into an area where I could have a drink of it, I'd lost half of it because we were all bumping into each other. So there you go. Serves me right, doesn't it? The only other note I've got from the first half was I felt that Coburn was being bullied a little bit. Now, look, he's still a young lad, and he's up against two multi-million-pound centre-halves. And so I'm not expecting much, but I actually felt in the second half he then went on to make a nuisance of himself, and he actually won three kicks by 57 because he was using his body more to win those free kicks. So fair play to Coburn. I think something happened at half time, and he did really, really well in that second half. Now on to the second half. I thought we did really well in the second half, to be honest, and I thought we really made a game of it. I'm looking through the chances here, and the majority are for us. And if you watch the highlights back, again, majority are for us. We win a free kick on 49. Wes Harding did really, really well. On 51, a real close moment for us. It was a real scramble in the box where Aziz ends up having a shot, but it's kind of blocked away. But the real moment was on 63, where a really good ball in from Harding, and Coburn is a whisker. All he has to do is to get a slight touch on that, and that's 2-2. And who knows what could happen from there. A real shame. And I don't know if this was the same pattern of play, but I've noted down here that, yes, it was. Jensen collected the ball, played it out to Coburn. Coburn held the ball up, and then Denor plays a really good ball out wide to Femi. And I felt that Aziz in the second half yesterday, he was the one that was causing them problems. I felt they couldn't deal with him at times. So credit to him. But we played some decent stuff. And even, look, I've slated Steve Parish here. But credit to him after the game, because he come out and talked about how we actually made it really difficult for them. And we did. And, Alex Neil said in his post-match, again, spoke superbly. What a catch he is, by the way, for us to get him. I think absolutely outstanding. But he spoke about the game plan was just to get, to the last 10 minutes and have a real go of it. Obviously, it wasn't meant to be. We go on to concede, which I'll touch on in a moment. But I thought we gave a really good count of ourselves, and I think the players should be proud. Yeah, I thought Aziz was really dangerous yesterday. We ended up making a lot of subs, and I'll be honest, I don't really know the rules about subs anymore, because I thought I did, and I clearly don't, because we ended up changing in the end all of our, front six, if you like, if you include the two central midfielders. So I don't really know. I'm assuming it's because of the red card you're allowed to, but I can't say I know the specifics. But what I liked as well is that Honeyman and Saville, when they came on, they were both in the ear of the referee, really just trying to get us going. If you just watch Saville, by the way, you could really see that. So again, I think they've all got roles to play. I think there needs to be some big decisions in the summer, but I don't think, and again, Steve Salis said this, I don't think you can just afford to make complete wholesale changes. For me, Saville, Leonard, they should be kept at the club. So at this point, Romain Esse obviously comes onto the pitch. So just to touch on this as well, I don't really, and you're going to say get splinters out your ass. I'll be honest, I don't really join in a certain chants, right? And whatever, that's for anyone to debate. But for me, I think what ended up happening was right overall, which is he now plays for an opposition team. And football is a results-based business, and if you can gain an advantage in the 90 minutes, you need to do what you can. So obviously the fans were booing Esse, which whatever. But then at the end, he comes over, and we clap him and we chant his name, because the young lad's done a lot for our football club in the sense that he's given us a lot of money that's enabled us to rebuild on and off the pitch with a training ground. So for me, personally, I think during the 90 minutes, he gives it to us, we give it to him. But then after the game, I think what happened was correct, which was to give thanks to a young lad that's given a lot to us. And do I like the fact he plays for Palace? On the surface, no. But when you actually think about it, and I've said this before, it's probably the best place for him in terms of the way they play football. We've got a hefty sell-on clause. He's going to get more minutes. I thought when he came on, he didn't. You could see why Palace had signed him. I thought he was desperate to make an impression, of course, which he would be naturally. But look, wish him well. Even though he blocked me on Twitter, and I don't quite understand, because I've never said anything bad about him. So, Rom, if you listen to this, mate, what's all that about? But listen, he's given us a platform to go and rebuild in the summer, and obviously we've already started doing that in January with the signings that we've made. They get their third goal, and it's a shame because we bring in Maku on, but unfortunately by that point it was too late, and it's a real. If we could have got to 2-1 and then bring in Maku on, I think you never know, right? This one in real time, I thought Jensen could have done better, but since I've watched it back, I don't think so, because I think it's an excellent header from Nketiah. The most disappointing thing I think is that we lose two first contacts in the box, which is very un-Millwall-like. All I will say is that the players are probably shattered by this point, so you kind of got to give them a little bit of leeway. 3-1, 2-goal gap between the clubs is probably about right. Did we really take the game to them in the second half and really make a game of it and make it difficult for them, or did they take the foot off the gas? Were they thinking about Mateta? I don't know. But it's always buts and maybes. I think we gave a really good account of ourselves, and personally, I'm really proud of the efforts that the players putting on the pitch. So, Yes, a very interesting game all round, I think. Look, I think we've restored our rightful place in football, which is to live up to our name of No One Likes Us based on some of the media circus that's come out since then. But, you know, you're going to get this as Millwall fans, aren't you? It's one of those things that is, seems to be at times our rightful place in society, doesn't it? But look, it is what it is. And by the way, I've done this in one take, so look, I might not have got all my comments correct. It's a difficult one to sum up, I think, yesterday, all round. But hopefully you agree with at least some of the comments I've made. By the way, I had a guy come up to me before the game and ask me for a photo. If you're on podcast, by the way, this is a joke. By the way, before anyone starts thinking I'm getting above my station, because that's not the case. So if you're on podcast, unfortunately, you're not going to get the joke. But yeah, some random guy come up to me yesterday. I've put it on screen there, and he was like, "Oh, I need a photo with you, mate." And I'm only kidding. Of course, if you can't see it, this is Mr. James Berylson, who was a pleasure to talk to before the game. He was quite like this. He was just walking around the ground after the game and talking to fans. So yeah, good to talk to him. Answered, certain questions, and yeah, so it was nice to hear from him in terms of his direction and stuff like that. So long may that continue. I think we're in an exciting place now in the league where, based on results yesterday, if we can win our game in hand, we're only 4 points off the playoffs still. So who knows? We've got a lot of the big clubs left to play. So look, I still don't think we'll get in the playoffs, but stranger things have happened. And I'm hoping with the changes that Alex Neil made yesterday, it's protected some of the legs for what is now a huge game on Tuesday. Look, if we play similar to the second half against Palace, I think we've got a good opportunity against Bristol City. Anything else left to say on the game yesterday? I'm just checking through my notes. I don't think so. I think I've covered the majority of it. Again, shout out to Wes Harding. I thought he was excellent. Just a couple of other little bits, actually. I think, look, I've got to address the banners from the Crystal Palace fans, haven't I? I've got to. Look, I think, again, remaining as objective and impartial as I can, Crystal Palace, in their own right, create a certain type of atmosphere. It's not for me. It's definitely not for me. It's very almost American, with the fireworks and the cheerleaders. And I've actually been to a couple of MLS games when I've been away, and it's very similar in terms of the chanting and the flag waving, all that kind of stuff. Look, if that's your bag, fair play to you, because Palace do that well. So fine. You couldn't get two more different clubs and fan bases, could you? And I think that was encapsulated in the banners that they held up, which I don't know. I have to crack a smile at those. You know what it gets me is just the amount of organisation that goes into doing something like that. What should we write, lads? And where should we get the utensils to fill this out? And at what moment should we put this up? It even had a full stop on it. So the punctuation was there. But look, whatever, fine. Two very, very different clubs. For me, very, very happy with the way that my club, my club has the banter that we have and stuff like that. So all fine. And then also just to say, it was a pleasure to meet a couple of you yesterday. So D-Rave, good to meet you, mate. Good bit of banter with you yesterday. Colin Taylor, nice to obviously speak to you, and then John and Carl, who were sitting in front of me, who come to every game from Wiltshire. That is some doing. So credit to you. But no, joking apart, like you don't know what it means for when you make comments and the positivity, because I do this for a laugh, right? I don't do it for any other reason. I'm not trying to be anything I'm not or whatever. I do this because I love my club. I like talking about my club, and thankfully, a lot of people like to hear it. So I really appreciate it. We'll continue to do this, and look, if we can do that, and we can have a bit of fun, and we can raise some money for charities, why not, right? So thank you as always for listening. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, that was a tough one to summarize, but hopefully I got some of it right. I won't get all of it right. I think everyone's got different opinions on things like that. But look, thank you as always for listening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday at the Den. Of course, as always, bye for now.
Hi, it's Steve Morrison here, and you're listening to Chat with Chaps, chatting Millwall, come rain or shine.